Hello and welcome to another episode of the Opportunity Podcast. I'm your host, Greg Elfring, head of marketing over here at Empire Flippers. And today I am talking to the Lord of White Press himself, Steven Khanna. And Steve, he is the head of English markets for White Press. So I met White Press as a brand probably about a year and a half ago, maybe 2 years ago. I was in Birmingham in UK, and my buddy Charles Float, he introduced me to this crazy guy, Steven, who's really, really fun to chat with. And I learned about White Press, and I was shocked I had never heard of them before because they are pretty massive. And it makes sense why I hadn't, because they hadn't really gone into the English market yet. But for your knowledge, White Press is basically a global link building agency with a high concentration within Europe itself, but they have other countries as well. And obviously, they've expanded like explosively into the English market over the last couple of years. So I thought, why not interview Steve and get a perspective on this whole crazy link building business model? And like, we're actually starting to sell agencies as well on our marketplace, like more than we have in the past. And I believe we have like 2 link building agencies that are going up for sale here shortly on our marketplace. So definitely go register if you haven't. But I thought this is kind of perfect timing. Let's explore this business model a little bit together. And that's exactly what we do in this podcast. So if you've ever been curious on like, how does a link building agency actually work from a sales perspective and building relationships and networking, something that I think is really just never really talked about in this industry, that this is the podcast for you. Steven is a really, really cool dude, very amicable, and he gives you the lowdown on how he's been able to take what was basically a non-profitable division of their company and turn it into $500,000 a month in link building sales, which is impressive to say the least. All right, enough of me chatting. Let's get to the actual interview. I'll see you on the other side. All right. I got Steven, the head of English markets over at White Press, the Lord of White Press and all things links. I've had the pleasure of hanging out with you, Steven, several times across the world now at this point. But for my audience that may not be as familiar with you or White Press, why don't you do them a favor and let them know who you are?
Brilliant. Will do, mate. Greg, good to see you again, mate. Honored to be here on your podcast, and hopefully I can add some value. Right. I'm the head of English markets, YPress, as you said, anything to do with links, link building, whether it's digital PR, SEO optimized content creation. That's what YPress does. So our core product being an actual marketplace where people could go in and, order their campaigns themselves, like a self-service tool. But we also offer full agency service model. We've been doing it for 11 years now, 28 to 30 countries we operate in, 8 figures ARR, happy days, trying to be very Google proof to all our clients and all their campaigns, but loving it. I've been in the trade, just over 2 years, but loving every second of it. And I get to see blokes like you, party with you, and be on your podcast, mate. Happy days. What's there to complain?
The moment we met I think we met originally in Birmingham. The moment we met, this was a date with destiny. It would happen. This podcast meeting.
I agree. I
Yeah,
agree, mate.
awesome, man. I think one thing that is really interesting. So when I hung out with Charles Float in Birmingham for his conference, I think that was my first introduction to White Press. And I was shocked at how big you guys are. So maybe describe that a little bit, because you guys have offices like kind of everywhere.
Correct. So we've had a rapid growth in the last 5 years. I'm sitting in my head office here in Poland, believe it or not. So a gentleman by the name of Paweł, our current CEO, he started the company 11 years ago, spotted a gap in the market. We became very quickly the go-to company for links in Poland. But then 5 years ago, we just wanted to upscale and it spread like wildfire. So now we've got 12 physical offices, if I'm not wrong. Turkey, Brazil, Hungary, Romania, Greece, you name it. Some of the places I don't even remember, mate, because we keep keep opening new offices. But then our goal is to then very quickly become that leading global agency when it comes to, as I said right at the top of the podcast, anything to do with links, whether it's white hat, custom outreach, marketplace, digital PR, content creation, that one-stop shop when people are looking to execute campaigns in a timely manner. So yeah, can't complain. I mean, the growth's been incredible. But as you know, being a businessman yourself, the faster the growth is, the bigger the demands are. But yeah, enjoying the challenge,
And
mate.
often the bigger the problems to solve.
Yeah. Yeah. Correct.
Before we go deeper into your business model, because I am fascinated by the link building world in general, as from like the business model perspective, we actually are about to list, I think, two different link building agencies on the marketplace. So this is actually pretty relevant timing for my audience. Talk to me a bit about you, because you are, in a sense, similar to me in that you weren't in SEO before you joined White Press. So what was the lead up to this position you find yourself in now, overseeing all this explosive growth?
Yeah, quite an interesting one. But then I firmly believe kind of good things come in small packages, as in very opportune moments. So my background's made been running restaurants back in the UK, done that for 20 plus years, certified wine sommelier and all of that. Moved to Poland, Polish missus, can't complain. The weather's great. Gin and tonics are really cheap. And then
You're one of the first people who have said that the weather is great in Poland, but you justified it with the gin and tonic.
exactly, mate. That's it. I'll stick around in Poland just for the sake of gin and tonics, mate. So and then where we are based, where the head office is, it's down south in Poland, really small town. And we've got these every Friday kind of expat language exchange meetings we go to just to chit chat, speak a common language. And that's where my boss, Tom, who's the head of international growth, he was there and we just ended up chit chatting. And then he texted something on Facebook the day after looking for a German biz dev manager. And I was busy selling wine, happy days. I was getting drunk every day, no problem. And I randomly joked, like, well, you got something against the English. You don't want to hire an English biz dev manager. And he literally jumped on that fact and he said, no, actually, I am looking for one. Let's have a chat. And mate, the next 6 months, SEO was black magic. I came in probably 6 times to sit down right next to him, to other people to try and understand. Hang on, what am I selling? What are backlinks? What do you mean by indexing? What is do follow? But it took me a while to kind of make up that mind. And to be honest, with jittery feelings, I stepped in and I said, you know what, I'll probably last here 3 months. I might not even complete my probation. I'll probably go back selling wines again. It's not going to work. But guess what? 2 years down the line, thanks to a lot of things and a lot of decisions we've made in a very strategic and correct manner, invested in the right conferences around the world, my networking, which exploded and it keeps exploding every conference I go to. And based on that, the ROI we've got is just phenomenal. I remember a month after I joined, we went to our first international conference, which was Brighton SEO. We took a booth, we sponsored it, all of that. And by the time I got back from doing 5 grand a month, within the next 2 months, I was doing 48 to 55,000 pounds just by being in Brighton SEO, because I firmly believe that the product we were offering, irrespective of link buildings, reputation is down the drain. What we were offering was quite unique. And if it's executed in a fairly white hat manner, you could skill scale it, win the trust of all your clients. And then being in conferences, it just makes the sales loop a lot quicker, because face to face, you generate that trust. If you're a likable person, you kind of easy to get along, enjoy a similar drink, whatever the favorite tipple might be, you know, kind of people become your mates. And once they like you, it's easy to kind of get on a follow up call and see if there are opportunities. You then, pretty much close the deal. So, based on that growth, my markets, which were bottom of the ladder when I took over, within 18 months, we've had huge growth. And now, if I'm not doing close to half a mil my every month, my boss comes in knocking on my door. I was like, hang on, mate, what's going on here? From a team of having three to now what we've got 17 members and I'm still employing more people. Great profitability. So, I get to travel the world, scale the business on top of that. And because of that growth and international recognition we've had, it's been a lot easier to then go and open newer markets or untapped markets like the Baltics, for example, or Serbia or Croatia, where, yes, these are very smaller markets, but because of our global footprint at this stage, it's much easier to now launch into newer markets and instantly be the go to agency. But I think a lot of that growth has stemmed from us rubbing shoulders with the big boys like yourselves, your James Dooleys, your Julian Goldies, your Charles Floats, and your Matt Ticketies, which I think you're into sales and biz dev yourself, mate, and you know it. People, when they say your network equals to your net worth, which is so true. And I'm so thankful if White Press did not invest in those conferences. I probably would be still stuck making what 80 cold calls a day, dropping in voice notes or LinkedIn sales messages,
Yeah,
trying to sell links. Eh?
yeah, I feel you. Your story when you first started reminds me a bit when I first started at EF. Like, I was an oil field roughneck, so not really like a marketer. Right? I was drilling for oil. I always was passionate about marketing, so I knew a little bit going in. But I remember pretty early on in my career, we did this mastermind, and I was surrounded by seven-figure entrepreneurs. And I'm supposed to give them advice. Like, I just
Yeah,
learned about M&A like a couple weeks ago. So throw into the deep end. But yes, I agree with everything you said there. I think there's something a bit magical almost with coming from that outsider perspective, because a lot of SEO is probably not the best with social skills a lot of the times, right? So if like you're good with social skills and charisma, they kind of flock to you a little bit, but they're really awesome to hang out with. I think out of all my marketing friends, my SEO friends are the most fun. Like even the drama they do in the Facebook groups, like, no, that's not the way link building works. That's not the way on page works. Versus my paid media friends are like, yeah, we pretty much all agree with how to scale a campaign. Like, there's no there's no soap opera happening in the threads, right? Versus like Twitter's like blacklist, I'm canceling you. It's a lot more fun. Well, cool, man. I also agree with the network equals your net worth. Like that's also been my thing, similar to you. Like perhaps even more. Like if White Press wanted to sell their business with me, there's a lot of trust that has to be built. So they gotta like you and believe you can get the job done, which takes a lot of time. And cold calling is often not the best medium. So I respect what you've done with the hustle.
thank
Speaking
you.
of that
Thank
hustle, yeah, no problem, Steven. You got Greg's approval, the elf badge of honor. Speaking of your customers, though, so this might trail into what you did with Brighton, but like you help a lot of your customers break into the European markets in general. So talk to me about the benefits of that international expansion and maybe a little bit of who these customers are. I would assume they're not content site owners necessarily, maybe more e-commerce, but you let me know. Tell me who these people are and what they're trying to do.
Yeah, without giving names away because we got NDA signed with a lot of them,
Oh,
but
let's
these
do
are
that. We can get you sued on this podcast, man. This could be the most expensive medium media you've ever done.
so. Oh, this could be my last podcast ever in the world of SEO before I'm
How
marched
to
out
get
of White
fired from your
Press.
high profile job with one easy trick.
This could go viral tomorrow.
Here we come, TikTok.
Yeah, yeah. So a lot of them are e-commerce brands, and I think a lot of that stemmed just after the second or the third COVID lockdown, because everything dried up in terms of footfall within these stores. So obviously they had to then scale up their e-commerce needs, and based on whether it was an English client or whether it's a Polish client, they obviously spotted or identified countries, or they actually came to me and they said, "Listen, guys, this big hole. We're missing, I don't know, 33% out of our annual revenue. This is a big hole we need to fill in. Right, help us launch in XYZ markets, which have got a cultural and a spend relevance where we could easily scale up." And that's what we did in terms of, okay, start looking at what are the cultural similarities. Like a Polish brand would be very easily scalable in countries like Romania, Hungary, Slovakia, Czech Republic, and some big famous brands here in Poland where they grew 4x, 5x, 10x within the first 12 months of doing things with us. Forget about filling up that hole. We smashed all targets for them. And we very quickly also figured out that international SEO or the non English SEO side of things, it's a lot easier. Google is, we all know that. Google's not too harsh on the non English side of things. So to rank on certain strategic keywords, it does not take a lot of effort. Plus, there's that culture there that if you approach, no matter how big the website is, they're quite easily okay to link back to your client's website. The job was a lot easier, whereas in our markets, as you know, there's a lot of content which relevant content we need to prepare. Keep pitching, keep knocking on the doors. Anchor text being changed a million times, or a line there and a quote from your CEO there. One link could
The
potentially take
entities,
what
the entities.
the entity exactly. So that's one benefit, or that's one gap in the market we spotted, and that's a lot of what I then copied and I started doing to my English clients as well. Any cultural relevance or spend relevance. So a UK brand could easily scale up their operations and get more revenue coming in from Germany or from the Netherlands or even from the Scandinavian countries. So it was all us going back to them, or me going back to them, presenting case studies that clearly look at this, it worked. Give us a testing period. Let's do it for 3 months, right? First month, I don't know, I'm not going to charge you X, Y, and Z, where just to, have that period of that trust being built. And once you see the needle moving, then it's very easy to push funds behind that and then make sure the results follow. So I think that's one strategic benefit WordPress brings to the table within the world of link building is our global reach. And I said 29 to 30 markets. By the time we end this year, I'm pretty sure we'll be touching 40 countries or 40 different languages where people could scale up and literally launch their e-commerce brand or simply get backlinks from a certain part of the world. We already having so many queries. Okay, they need websites from Thailand, from Vietnam, from Japan, from Hong Kong, and we've never had that inventory or never had those relationships. When there's money to be given, mate, why hold back? Because I'm of this firm opinion, when the iron's hot, that's when you need to strike it. Timing is so important. One of the reasons why my missus is never really happy with me is I'm always on my phone. I'm always responding to text messages, emails. Is I'm always of the fear that, hang on, if I don't answer within the hour, my competition's going to come in and literally take the client under my nose. So I think that's one thing perhaps I bought in from the service industry is, you want to do something, now is the time. And if factually, in terms of data, instinctively, all of those things make sense, then hang on, mate, there's only one way of finding out whether it'll work or not, is to actually do it. So yeah, I'm sure I've answered the question. I hope I've answered the question.
Yes, very good. I actually had a couple of follow-ups to what you said. So you mentioned something about, the different cultures and stuff like that. So if I'm a, I don't know, German e-commerce site and I'm going to Hungary or Poland or whatever, like does the site reskin itself for that language? Like there's a drop down, same site, and then you're building out the backlinks to that. So that's the first question I have. And the second question is, like, I think you could probably answer both of these at once. I have a friend, he builds Thai websites, and he mentioned to me something that was quite interesting about the consumer culture there is they don't really use Google that much. Like they don't tend to go to Google. Is that similar with other European countries as well, or is it more akin to like what it would be in America and UK?
Well, if you'd asked me this question 5 years ago, then yes, Google perhaps didn't have that much of emphasis there. But as much as we say Google is a bit more lenient in the non-English markets, yet them beginning to have that radar or that drone surveillance on those countries has clearly increased. Because I have seen some of our own clients, when we clearly saw the kind of links they were building. I said, guys, you're playing with fire. You're going to get penalized by Google. And that happened. So what's happened is, in terms of cultural shift, is for them to learn and know more about Google algorithms and how to kind of be very white hat. They have started now looking at the English markets, the English market influencers, the names I mentioned at the top of the program. And that way, that has brought in a lot of relevance when we jump on calls and we recommend people, okay, if you want to launch into a certain market, that is the Google guideline. That's how it should be done, in terms of, how the website should be then launched in a certain market with a specific language. But in terms of building backlinks, mate, I think the approach will never change. You need to do it in a natural, authentic manner. You need to have a healthy backlink profile. You need to have your do follows. You need to have your no follows to it. And of course, you need to pace it out as well. I've had clients where I've been on calls and I've said no to them. They want to build 100 links every month for the next 12 months. Yes, there's a lot of money on the table. I said, guys, all due respect, fantastic. I'm very happy you want to give me all that money, but it's not going to work. Based on what Google wants, there needs to be a relevance of how many links you want to build per month. And then we go back. I've got my tech SEO team who sits a flow down, further down. I said, do the competitor analysis, see which keywords where the gaps are, and then let's come up with a healthy plan, which is not bringing them, or they don't want the returns or that doesn't show them returns within the first 6 months. SEO, we all know, is a slow process. It's not Google Ads, it's not paid media. So if they want to build huge amount of links, then it can't be done within 12 months. It needs to be a 24-month or an 18-month process where you steadily see that organic traffic growing and you kind of Google proofing your websites. All these algo updates happening. SGE, I spoke about before we jumped on the podcast, LinkedIn being on fire today with all these manual
Yes.
penalty actions with those big news websites. So we clearly are in troubled times. Yet, link building or links or the value of links, no matter what people say, will never lose its value. Links would always be one of the most important ranking factors for you to drive traffic, leads, end of the day, revenue, and all of that. So if you're marrying all that data with cultural sensitivity and the spend you can expect, tied up with what the Google algorithm is talking about, you know, you can go to sleep. You shouldn't be worried or bothered about it. And I see that trend even now in Poland changing considerably. Everyone trying to link to a PBN, and they've stopped doing it now because they're so shit scared about, oh, Uncle Google's going to come in and rap us on our knuckles very soon.
Yeah, I remember the PBN witch hunt in, I think it was like late 2016, 2017 in the English market. Google did such a great psyops campaign, like scaring all the SEOs to reveal their PBNs on accident to Google, and then they just hammered them. Brilliant, brilliant campaign on their part. Talk to me a bit about the trust building. So you did one thing that I would recommend for anyone who needs to build trust with their audience, which is tell them no. I do that with EF. Like I tell sellers all the time, like you're not as valuable as you think you are. It kind of breaks their dreams a bit because they have outsized ideas of what their business is going to be valued at, right? For you, I could see the trust building part something you have to do again and again because, like you mentioned, SEO is a long term thing, right? So you get that first buyer, they buy their first batch of links, and they immediately need to be sold again on you, right? Because like the moment they buy is the moment regret sinks in and anything you buy or sell. So talk to me about how you and White Press continuously build this trust with your client to keep them going from like, all excited in month one, but keep that momentum going for those several months down the line when they're like, I don't know. And they're right on that cusp of really starting to rank.
Yeah, and to be honest, that's where big companies make it or become great. And I think we're well on our way of becoming one of those fantastic, great companies. I shouldn't be sitting here blowing my own trumpet for Ypress, but I'm stating truth and facts here. And I think it's thanks to our business model we've got is, you'll be surprised and your audience might be surprised to know, we don't do any lock-in contracts with anybody. We've got no contracts at all. So that keeps myself and my sales and account managers on their toes, where you need to deliver stuff every week, every day, every hour, every month, followed up with strategic meetings. Okay, this is what we
Mhm.
should be doing. Reports which are being analyzed in a more strategic manner. So that trust really comes from us, a managing expectations right at the discovery call stage, where if they come in with silly expectations, all due respect, a lot of the Turkish skincare industry or hair transplant industry, they want to come in and want links on BBC. Do follow. And I was like, mate, I'm not sure who told you, who gave you that information. And if people are sending you spreadsheets in an inbox, just block that person because it ain't going to happen. Forget BBC. There are lots of websites below that. We're talking the Daily Mail or the Mirror, even local news websites out of Yorkshire or out of London. It doesn't work. And in fact, having a no follow actually from a very authoritative, relevant website to your brand will still add value. Link juice would still be passed. So, in a summary, what I wanted to say was trust building or being or having that momentum continuously. We also temper it with a bit of reality, mate. We're in link building. We've got competitors out there. There'll be people coming in with numerous emails every morning attaching their spreadsheets to it. And if someone's trying to penny pinch and save some money, there'll be times where they'll say, White Press, I probably am getting something similar, 10% cheaper, and I'm going to go there. Clearly, that's not the reality because those spreadsheets which are being floated around on God's green earth have got data or editorial guidelines which are 3 years old. that's where it makes us different, is us having fantastic, trustworthy relations, not just with our marketeers or the people who want to give us the business, but also the publisher side of things, people who have actively provided links for us. So we keep chatting to them once every month to see if there are any changes. Yeah, if I don't know, they need any further help in terms of perhaps recommendations, if they're looking for certain strategic articles from a certain niche with our networking and our global reach, we can easily pull some strings and provide them with whatever quality content they're looking for. And I don't have to make any money on that at all. So it's giving those favors, sometimes obliging people, remembering, having a mental note to it, you know, being honest with your clients. There'll be times where, sorry, things would fall flat. Take ownership, responsibility, but then come up with an action plan which clearly states you're going to fix that problem within the next 48 hours, within the next 72 hours, you know. And once you've got all of that together, along with being really likable and a big recognizable brand, then you know what, people let you off the hook. I've screwed up a lot of times, to be honest, but because you've got a very strong, trustworthy relationship, because you managed expectations not just at the top, but as you continued along, and you always spoke the truth, people would value you for that. And I've had clients where I've told them, sorry, I can't deliver that. They've gone away thinking I'm talking bonkers, and then 3 months later they come back and say, you know what, mate, yeah, actually you were right. Can we jump on a call again, please, for 15 minutes, and let's see whatever is still actionable in order to catch up on lost time. So a bit
Yeah.
of everything. It's like my ideology of being in a restaurant. For me to get a 5-star review on TripAdvisor or on Google reviews for a specific meal, I need to be, or my waiting staff would need to be on the ball for that hour and a half long period of mealtime, which is 30 seconds when the client's there or the guest is there. I should be using the word guest. You see, I've been too long away from restaurants. The menu's there, the proper recommendations are being done, your drinks are being served within whatever 3 to 5 minutes, starters coming in after 12 minutes, main courses 15 to 17 minutes, proper checkbacks, doing a bit of upsell and all of that. But once people are cared for, they're much more open for advices, recommendations, and as long as there's budget to be spent, they would give it to you.
Yeah, I agree with pretty much all of that, especially the honesty thing. Like, I always joke, it kind of goes back to like telling them what you can't do, but I always joke with my team, though I'm being somewhat serious about it, that I tell people what Empire Flipper sells is not just businesses. Like, what we really sell is an opportunity. It's an opportunity to change your life. Now, we might change your life negatively because everything goes to shit when you buy $1 million business from me. Like, that happens, right? That's just business. Like, there's always risk. But that last part, like, a lot of people would not add that last part to their marketing because they don't want to have position themselves in that way, right? But there's an ironic level of trust that is built by just doing that. Like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Like, I have a friend, he bought a business from me, a smaller business. I think it was like, I want to say 120K, 130K. And unfortunately, that's what happened to him. He lost the entire thing. Now, he wasn't mad at me because I told him you could lose everything, right? I told him up front, like, this could happen. He blamed more on himself for not checking more of the backlinks. And like, we do as best as we can at EF, but like, our vetting team, they're not trained SEOs, they're trained M&A people, right? But yeah, so like, just by being upfront with risk and like that, and telling people what you can and can't do, I think that's huge. And not enough people do it. So I'm glad to hear you say that. Let's pivot here a little bit, because you are known as kind of like the life of the party at conferences. And you mentioned that you've built a lot of business from conferences. So talk to me a bit about your strategy. How do you use this in your sales and marketing strategy to make conferences effective? What's your game plan?
Yeah. So a classic mistake I see a lot of people do, they're pouring all that money in conferences, but they either don't have a booth there in order to tap into the leads walking left and right and just having normal conversations, or they bring in the worst staff ever who are not charismatic, they're not chirpy, they're not smiling. And I'm sure you've seen it in plenty of conferences where there's a booth, but then two blokes sitting behind tapping away on their mobiles and traffic is just passing. Now, come on, that for me is criminal. And then being at an event is just half the job. The real job really starts is once you're there. So I'll give you a perfect example. I've got a great relation with Dre, who manages the event in Brighton SEO. And she always gives me one of those perfect spots, which is right behind the registration desk. And everyone needs to pass from there. And I always make sure we got a good, strong bantery 8 to 10 people who are there, and we literally crowd the area. So anyone who's passing, without being too pushy, of course, we generally come up with different jokes and say, sorry madam, you've just entered the white press zone, you will have to pass through and have a bit of a chit chat with us. Or just to attract the crowd, we've got not just standard merch, and that's another classic mistake people do. Yeah, I'm gonna put out some merch, but mate, half of that is absolute shite. My 8-year-old or a 5-year-old won't even touch those pair of shitty sunglasses, probably bought out of Primark or whatever. So if you want
Don't
value,
you
if
make
you
fun of
want,
my sunglasses, Steven. Don't you make fun of
no,
the
you mate,
sunglasses.
no, you mate, you and ODYS are the exception. You guys obviously give out quality merch. So
Sunglasses
what
are
they
pretty shit, but the shirts are nice. Just being upfront.
all good, mate, all good. So what we do, like, so in Brighton SEO, we had one of those fortune wheels as well. So that obviously sense of competition, everyone's got that competitive spirit in it. Roll the dice, see what the luck brings out, but then you got to be still clever with it. So what we want is people signing up to our platform, and we can happily give them like a 50 quid voucher just to hook them into what we're doing, which is great, but you
Mhm.
need those hooks at certain times. So rather than having just 15 numbers of everything just giving away for free, every third or the fourth number which lands, it's £50 complimentary voucher from White Press. So the odds of out of an entire wheel of 15 numbers, but every third being a £50 voucher, clearly, how are you going to spend your £50 voucher if you don't have an account on the platform? So this is how little tweaks to what you're really trying to achieve, apart from just being nice and enjoying the community spirit, talking to people, making friends. You got to tie all of that in, take your best people, and then literally give them KPIs. Every person needs to come back with an X amount of leads, which is then accountable, measurable, literally on the next Monday, the first day when you're back in the office. Have a quick strategy session and see, okay, let's try and identify our A players with the biggest spend. We hope they would potentially have based on that quick 5-minute conversation you've had. And then just make sure you're following up, chasing, 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 as long as there's a yes or a no. Quite simple, quite easy to say what I just said, but it just blows my mind when I see lots of money simply being wasted by just having either not a booth, just sponsoring, or just having the wrong people. And you know it, mate. Whether it's SEO, whether it's restaurants, whether it's empire flippers flipping multi-million pound businesses, either way, it all comes down to the quality of people. We're all human beings,
Absolutely.
we're all emotional animals. Apart from being professional and bringing and doing our jobs really well, we also want to enjoy what we do. And if you get the right people in the right place, that's pretty much what Matt Singers says as well in his management courses, is getting the right person for the right job. Otherwise, I keep using this phrase a lot, it's a car crash waiting to happen.
On a quick aside, I'm glad you brought up Mads because now I could tag him in this podcast to tell him we talked about him, and it's just going to be this one moment he has to listen to to find out where it is in the podcast. So thank you for that.
Well,
But yeah, I agree with you. I think like we struggle with conferences. I'm the conference guy at EF, but to your point, like it is pretty hard to get like those charismatic people behind the booth. One of the issues I found when you were talking about tapping on the iPhone, the thing that always drives me nuts that my team will sometimes do is they'll be working, which that's great, but they're not working at the conference. They're like sitting at the booth and they're working, checking their email, like checking sellers or whatever, like all that's needed. But like I need you here. So I always tell people like there's nothing else you're supposed to do except for to be here and be at this conference. But usually that doesn't happen. So now what I've done, because I know they're never going to follow my rule, is I'm like, all right, this is what we're going to do instead. You are going to come early in the morning for the first part of the conference, and I'll probably get in around 11 or noon because there's usually the after stuff that you're always going to and whatever. So I have them basically do my morning shift for me, is because I know I have to be out to like way late. with everyone else with like the, after party and the after party, all that kind of stuff. Cause that's where a lot of the deals happen, right? So now that's what I do. So like, I'll just do it. But I have a funny thing on tracking. Like a lot of people don't track at all with their conferences, and we try to. It's a hit or miss. But there was a very funny thing that happened to me. So I spoke at Affiliate World Dubai. It was like 5,000 people, and I rented a Lambo, put an EF logo on it, did the whole social media influencer thing where like, am I an influencer now? Am I? As a joke, or kind of a parody. But I put a QR code on that Lambo, and we sold a $2.3 million deal for someone that
Wow.
scanned that QR code on that Lambo and sold their business for multiple seven figures. So that was really cool. I mean, just that alone was a massive return on conferences. But yeah, I
There you go.
agree with you, man. So many people just don't do it right.
They don't do it. And all you need is this, you're looking for those one or two bigger deals, and it just makes it all worthwhile. 3 days of sweating it out, literally losing your voice, talking to so many different people. And again, I'm going to give the example of Brighton SEO because that's where the biggest kind of footfall happens there. And if we still can't break it in those conferences, and you part of account management, customer service, sales, then there are two problems there. Either you're in the wrong place, in the wrong job role, or your boss doesn't know what he or she, you know, they're doing. Because clearly, horses for courses, that kind of thing. You can't just suddenly make Lionel Messi become a goalkeeper. That's just silly. Little little guy, he can't become a goalkeeper. His certain skill set is what it is, and you kind of find a place for that person. So as long as those pillar points are being addressed, there's a strategy, there's an active conversation happening, you pivoting as the conference develops, as the conversations are happening. You need to have that presence of mind as well. Just because you had a preconceived strategy, it could just fall flat after conversation number 5. People might not be even up for talking to you longer than 30 seconds based on the pitch you had created, which is 30 seconds long or 45 seconds long. And again, a difference maker between average sales guys to great sales guys. Great sales guys would identify what's not working, but very quickly pivot, think on their feet, come up with something which they might have picked up listening to what other people are talking about, and very quickly insert that into your conversation at a very early stage. And that's when you see the dramatic effect. And if you've got a fantastic team spirit, then that one person who's initiated that change say, listen mate, this wasn't working, I've quickly tried this method and it worked on 10 people out of 20 I spoke to, let's try that. But all that comes through, if the right culture is also built up within the team, you know
Yeah.
hungry, passionate people.
Yeah, so two things on the losing your voice thing. At that Dubai event, I actually did lose my voice right before I had to speak in front of those 5,000 people because just so many people. And then you're out late, smoky bar, whatever, right? And like, oh my God, how am I going to recover on stage from this? So what I told everyone in the crowd is like, you might notice my voice is a bit weak right now. If your voice is not like my voice, you're not taking this event serious. That's how I got over. Like, good save, Greg. But on the other thing, what you're saying around conferences, what you're saying with equipping your team. So the thing that I've done, and it sounds like you're doing something similar, is I would have these like catch lines of stats or like things that would emotionally resonate with people, like jokes that people always laugh at or whatever. And I had a buddy, he was like my second command on my marketing team. He'd come sometimes to the conferences with me, and I'd become a meme because he had heard every joke, every story in my repertoire like 6 or 10 times over the period of a few conferences, right? And I'm just like reusing them. So I'd always like print out the spreadsheet and give it to every person that comes, like help me with the conference. Like, here's like the situations, you use these stories. So yeah,
Brilliant.
I agree with you. Yeah.
Yeah, magic words, things with what you said people emotionally resonate to. And I think you're clearly leading by example there, showing your team how it should be done. And I think it's easier for them then to literally learn from you and try and then input their own personality, tweak it a little bit so it still comes out
Yeah.
very authentic and natural. Because the last thing you want is a sales guy sounding robotic in a conference which
Yeah,
has got what,
100%.
500 people or 1,000 people there.
Yeah, I agree. When I was first selected for conferences, it was like a backhanded compliment I got when I first joined EF. We were trying to decide who to send, and they're like, one guy's like, we should send Greg. People seem to like him. I was like, oh, that's really nice. I'm on the call, and then the other parts of the leadership team, like, yeah, Greg, you're weird as hell, but people seem to love it.
There you
I'm
go.
like, oh,
There
thanks,
you go.
thank you.
Yeah.
So like, that's just part of being authentic, right? I'm a weird dude into literature and poetry, and there was a guy I sold a business with at a conference where we had a 30-minute conversation about medieval weaponry. So yeah, it worked.
That's it. I think, as you said, yeah, being authentic, natural, and I think if you show your true self, I think there are enough sides to every human being for someone or majority to actually like, connect, and then resonate with it.
Yeah.
People often ask me, "Is this how you are?" Being quite fun, dropping a lot of jokes, and being one of those party animals outside of those conferences. I am obviously, once I'm at work, when there's serious business to be done, yeah, I could be slightly different, I'll be honest. But generally the spirit within the office is us cracking jokes, as I normally do in conferences. And sometimes all of us are like, you know what, mate, if HR walked in here today, half of us would be matched out of white press. But it's all done in good taste.
I'll make sure to send her a link to this podcast so she can watch you more vigilantly. Well, cool. I do want to shift into a couple other topics with you. So, one of the things, you correct me if this is wrong, but it seems like it's true. It seems like you have quite a bit of affiliates promoting you. Now, with the SEO affiliate side, like it's all out apocalypse with like content sites and stuff right now. Like it's a very grim market at the moment. I don't think the model is dead completely. If anyone sees my speech, we just published it on YouTube where I talk a bit about how you can pivot a content site. But in your business, how are you using affiliates to grow WhitePress? How does that work for you?
Yeah, so that came out also one of the other secondary benefits, which very quickly become my biggest ROI in the last 8 months, is me being in those conferences and connecting with those partners, I'd like to call them, whether they're SEO influencers, agency owners, whatever that might be. So apart from us bringing value to their own brand or to their own agency, the second question very clearly to be asked is, okay, you don't have anything, or you don't have a budget or a client base to spend money with WordPress. But I'm sure within the SEO industry, within the SEO world, I'm sure you've heard. So let's jump on a call. Let me show you what WordPress does with our affiliate partners. And again, a lot of affiliate managers I've seen failing is their follow up skills, their flexibility in order to crack a deal, so to speak, is shocking. The worst thing you can do to any affiliate partner is just to leave them at their mercy, not respond to their emails, constant follow ups. And that's one thing, to be honest. Yes, WordPress has done it really well, and we continue to do it. The biggest evidence for that in the last 6, 7 months, I've not made one single cold call or dropped a cold voice note or whatever. I've not even used my sales navigator because my pipeline is full with all of these influencers I've made friends with in various conferences, partied with them, drank with them, then got serious when it came to business. So they clearly see, okay, when it comes to work, the guy delivers, but he's also very likable and very human as well. And, he's it's just an honest, fun loving bloke. But that again comes from constantly strategizing, asking the right questions at the right time. White press early next year, the world would see us scaling that even more, because I've had phenomenal success in the English markets, but I think we're still underperforming in the other non-English markets, and I think we're still leaving a lot of money on the table. I think there's this need of someone to come in and take charge of the affiliate partnership program we've got, which is fantastic. Just to kind of give you a slight insight to it, a lot of affiliate programs out there would give you affiliate commission 12 months, 24 months, whatever that might be. On paper, on our platform, we offer it for 5 years as long as the client's spending. But I've had deals I said, listen, mate, as long as the client's spending, even if it's till the end of time, you'll keep getting your money. But then the process of how even those people are paid out for those referrals and recommendations needs to be seamless. It needs to be very easy. Not that they're kind of running around expecting or kind of chasing myself or the accounts team. It should be extremely smooth so that there are more leads coming your way. And then every time you seeing all that data on your dashboard where you see, okay, maybe there are some further gaps, or you've picked up on a LinkedIn post which someone said something about link building, recommended someone, you spot that opportunity, you know that person's within your affiliate partnership, jump on a call, make sure there's a faster line of communication, which is usually I use a lot of WhatsApp because that's the quickest way of getting an answer back. One thing I do, which a lot of people agreed in the last few conferences, I've actually stopped texting. I drop a lot of voice notes. I probably did it with you as well on Facebook Messenger the last couple of days.
I personally hate voice notes. I mean, like I'll be having a conversation with someone like back and forth or like planning something, and then they drop like a minute and a half voice note to me on Facebook or WhatsApp or whatever. Like I'll eventually get to that because it's just like it's an extra task because I can't be doing other stuff. Like I can't just like skim what they're saying. But
Sure.
for some people, they love it. Obviously, I think I might be the caveat.
No, the overriding feedback I've got, and some people have tested my approach because I've had huge success with that. Because my mentality is quite straightforward. Right, we need to build trust. So ideally, we should be sitting face to face or even doing a Google Meet. But what's the next best thing? Okay, let them listen to me at least. Because with a voice note, you at least come across trustworthy, not trustworthy. You show
Yeah,
a bit of
yeah.
emotions when you're dropping all of that. So that generates trust. And I think the best feedback I got was from Ferry Kashoni. This was what, a year and a half ago, mate, on a Sunday. I saw him on LinkedIn and I don't know. I said, you know what? It's Sunday. Fuck it. I'll still drop him a voice note. And I dropped him a voice note introducing White Press. Within 30 seconds, he got back and he replied. And in Saigon last month, he was telling Jason Hennessy this. He said, the reason I replied to this bloke's message was A, he was different, but most importantly, what he said on that message generated trust. And I was like, you know what? This guy is different. I'm going to respond to him because that's really what we want. A lot of sales guys would go in wanting to conquer Rome in call one. But that's just stupid. It ain't going to happen. The purpose of dropping a
Yeah.
voice is to generate a bit of trust slash interest so that the next step is to get them on a call. Once you're on the call, you then sell the shit out of it because you know your product's really strong. Be honest about it. And that's how you kind of very quickly close the sales loop, positive or negative. There's no point wasting time on a specific lead. And that's what I continue to do with all our affiliate partners as well. If I want to speak to X, Y, and Z, randomly sending them artificial emails. We've all partied, we've all become friends, whether it's you or could be anyone within the SEO space who I consider my friends. I've got their WhatsApp. If you ask the right question, you'll get the right answer. A lot of people are
Yeah.
tipped around. I'm not sure if I should be asking that, mate. At worst, what? People going to say, you know what, mate, maybe not WhatsApp. Sometimes I'm with my kids or whatever. Can we just stick to emails? Happy days, no harm done.
I could see the voice drop being so useful, like before they really know you. Like for me, I'd probably listen to a random person's voice note over the cold pitch of trying to give me like a $50 gift card, for a demo. I hate that
Correct,
pitch so much.
correct.
Yeah, that all makes sense to me, man.
But also on top of that, just about in terms of just finish off that question about affiliate partnership scaling up, it's also not just about getting them paid their affiliate commission. It's also looking after them when you see, okay, they're looking for speaking opportunities, whatever. Be their friend as you claim you
Yeah,
were their
yeah.
friend. It's offering them, listen, I might have an opportunity at one of our SEO Vibes conference in YPress, or you know what, Mads is doing this. Let me reach out to him. Let me connect you guys. That's what people really appreciate is the effort, the honest effort of you trying to do something good for them rather than just money being exchanged. And I think that's where the real
Yeah.
relationships are made.
Oh, I 100% agree, man. Like money is just a symbolism for the value of the transaction, right? Like, but the relationship itself shouldn't be transactional. Like when I was early on in EF, when I was building out relationships with people, a lot of people just viewed it as a link building campaign. But to me, it was never about the links. Like I knew the links would come naturally by diving deeper into the relationship, but to the point where we got into the back of everyone's course at the time. So effectively, every time they spent money on Facebook ads, they were also spending a part of that budget promoting me because I'm inside the course, right? So all that stuff is super, super effective. And to your point, just trying to help people out, like that's how you nurture that network to also want to help you out. Like, I'm sure it's similar to you. Like, if I have a problem with something, I have so many people I can reach out to, and they'll just like help me, or at least point me in the right direction, right? And they're people I can trust because I know they're doing stuff that I need. So like that's the value of the network for sure. Of course, I always send Charles Float the messages first just to annoy him. Then I always speak to him as a Victorian era poet to make it extra weird. Now that we brought up Charles, I'll also message him
Yeah.
that we talked about him. So we got Mads and Charles Float in there. So that's good. All right. Well, we're coming up on time, and I won't be able to get to all the questions I have for you. There's a few big ones I do want to ask. So, with link building in general, what would you say are the most common myths that people believe about link building that they should stop believing?
Well, they keep talking about links are not an important ranking factor to start with. Well, hang on a second, mate. You bring up
That's
any
an
of these
easy
big
one.
websites. Yeah, you bring up any of the biggest websites and you look at their backlink profile. It's clearly shouting that they still continue to build links. However, obviously, there's a lot more digging deeper into building links, how to approach link building. Because clearly, if we all had to stick to Google's guidelines 100%, pitch with high quality content to relevant websites, and the editor should link back to you. That's the summary, one line summary I get out of a Google guideline, right? People with hundreds and thousands of backlinks, and I'm talking some of the biggest brands out there because a couple of them are, in fact, clients of WordPress. It would have taken them over 100 years to build those backlinks if you had to specifically just follow what Google has to say. Now, yes, Google is the almighty here in the world of SEO. We're all at the mercy of Google, but they also have shareholders. They also need to make revenue. They're also answerable to them, as we all do. Anything Google says, we take it with a pinch of salt. There's clearly, read between the lines and all of that. Without kind of saying too much about into the nitty gritties of link building, but I would say this: any of our clients or anyone from the audience, links would still add a lot of value when it comes to driving traffic, having your ROI on it. But obviously, with the changing times, you need to be extremely careful in what kind of sites you're building. So, one of the biggest vetting procedures we do at WordPress is, and we pass that on to all of our clients, which is very strange because a lot of white hat link building agencies actually do not have those control checkpoints compared to what WordPress does. For example, of course, there needs to be a minimum DA and traffic for every website we're onboarding. We're looking at their backlink profile as well. But the other two checks we do is, yes, it's an English website, but the traffic needs to be coming either from dominant English speaking countries, UK or US. Most of the agencies don't look at that. The second thing, traffic trend within the last 2 years. Not sure if it's still relevant or it's not relevant, but clearly for us and according to our tech SEO team, it is extremely relevant. If it's a fantastic website, real website, does anyone really know why did that website then have a traffic dip within the last 12 months or 9 months? So that's another vetting process we've added to our inventory, that there needs to be either a stable or increasing traffic trend after going through the first benchmark of 1,000 organic traffic. So as long as it's continuing upwards, you clearly linking to a highly established and a qualitative website. So I would recommend people out there who believe just pitching with high quality, relevant content to certain strategic websites is enough. No, start looking at where the traffic's coming from or what's the dominant country, because English speaking could be from anywhere, mate. Could be any part of the world. But what's the relevance? You're linking to, I don't know, 100 websites, but traffic coming from Zimbabwe and your business is in the UK. I'm of the firm opinion it has no relevance or value, even though you've got a strong backlink profile. I think it all comes down to relevant traffic as well. So there are more eyes being laid, whether it's a niche edit, guest post, whatever that might be, which clearly would equate into more clicks, which would then equate into more business as well. And if those websites have not been tanked in the last 2 years, then clearly it's a safe bet. So these are a couple of tips I'd like to give.
I think all those are great, man. Well, we're at the very end of the podcast, so I want to do the rapid fire section. So I'm going to ask you three quick questions, and you give me three quick answers. Are you ready?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. In your view, what is the best hidden growth opportunities for link building today?
International SEO. Go to non-English markets. The undiscovered gold is there.
I 100% agree with you on that. What tools or resources can people use to help them with their link building?
Well, apart from the standard Ahrefs, SEMrush, and all of that, there are lots of new AI generated tools coming out in the market as well. Look for a company called Senuto, Senuto. They're quite new in the market. Look at that. It's fantastic help when it comes to link building.
You're not going to do a shout out for White Press? What kind of salesman are you? This could have been the perfect selling from stage moment. You really messed it up, man.
Mate, that would be
I
too
can't
pushy,
believe
eh?
it. Well, I guess we'll do it on part two. All right. My final question for you, my friend, and the hardest question on this list. What has been your funniest moment since you started working in the SEO industry?
Mate, there've been one too many, but if I had to pick one, would be our Dubai conference in February. So the gentleman named Umar Faizan does his own podcast, a very likable fella
Oh,
out of
yeah, yeah.
Pakistan.
Umar's cool.
Us throwing him with his mobile phone and clothes on into the jacuzzi. We had our private jacuzzi there, so he just didn't want to get into the water. So we all just literally picked him up and threw him in the jacuzzi. But it came across the bloke can't swim, so he kept drowning
Oh,
in 2 feet
no.
of water for the next 4 minutes, and we had to literally rescue him out of a jacuzzi.
What a nightmare experience for Umar. Well, now that we mentioned him, I'll also let him know we talked about him on this podcast. Great. That's three influential people. Perfect. That is hilarious. Well, my friend, where can people go to connect with you if they want to, pick your brain about link building or maybe inquire about White Press? Like, where should we send people?
Yeah, the best option would be to just ping me a message on LinkedIn. I'm very active on LinkedIn as well, and then I can easily give you a better way of communication, WhatsApp, whatever. But start with LinkedIn, and then we work our way from there. Whether it's link building, whether it's white press, whether just getting advice on, sales techniques, growing businesses, mindset coaching, whatever that might be. Happy to help.
Awesome, man. We'll put those links in the show notes for anyone that wants to go check it out. And Steven, it's been awesome. Thank you for coming on.
Greg, it's been an honor, mate. Great chatting with you. Cheers.
You too. There you have it. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it got you inspired at all the different things that are happening in this industry. And of course, if you just want to buy a highly profitable business, you can always go to empireflippers.com/marketplace, or maybe you want to make an exit of your highly profitable business, and you could go to empireflippers.com/sell your site. I've been your host, Greg. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure you leave a review, give us a like, a follow, share it across social media. Talk to you all soon. See you on the next episode.